Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message, looking at the Messianic Psalms
With Dan Irvin.
Have you ever been accused of something that wasn't true about you? You try to do the best thing, the right thing, act with integrity, be kind, and yet you've been accused in a way where people might be twisting your words, misrepresenting what you've done. They're just plain out to get you. I don't know if you've had that experience. It's infuriating. It's disorienting. It's maybe more than anything, it's just isolating, lonely. I think in Psalm 35 here, we see David wrestling with this. We see David knowing this pain. He writes in Psalm 35, verses 11 through 12, "Ruthless witnesses came forward. They questioned me on things I know nothing about. They repay me evil for good and leave me like one bereaved." David just isn't describing an injustice against him here. He's describing a deeper feeling of abandonment, like one bereaved, someone who's lost everything. That's what false accusations, this feeling of being falsely accused does. It's isolating. And maybe you're listening and you know this pain all too well. Maybe this is a pain of the distant memory, or maybe this is more recent. In those moments that perhaps you've had, or maybe you can think back to when they've been a part of your life, I think the temptation is, at least my sudden urge is to defend myself, to fight back, to say, no, this isn't true about me. Justice, it's inside of us. It's something that we all long for. It's something that we want. It's part of being made in God's image. Psalm 35 points us to a different kind of response, and it's a response that we can see Jesus modeling for us in his life. Centuries after King David, Jesus stood trial before a corrupt courtroom, and this is recorded in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 26. It says this: "The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward." Think about that for just a moment. The Son of God, Jesus, he is truth. He's being condemned, he's being on trial, lies. What does Jesus do in this situation? He doesn't lash out. He doesn't demand to be heard. Instead, he puts his trust in the Father. David says these words, "They repay me evil for good." And that's exactly what happened to Jesus. He was healing people, forgiving sinners, restoring the brokenhearted, and the world responded to him with evil, with a cross, leading him to be crucified, treated as a criminal, though he was the only innocent man who ever lived. And here's the crucial thing in all this. Jesus was choosing this path. He wasn't a victim of injustice. He willingly took on injustice for us. Standing in our place on the cross, Jesus took the greatest false accusation of everything, the weight of our sin placed on him. The righteous one was condemned so that we, the guilty ones, could go free. This is why Psalm 35, it's not just a cry of despair, but it's a cry for justice. Look at verse 17, David's words: "How long, O Lord, will you look on? Rescue me from their ravages, my precious life from these lions." Here's the amazing news. God answered that prayer. Ultimately, with the resurrection of Jesus, Jesus did not fight back. God vindicated him. He rescued him. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 23, one of my favorite verses: "When they hurled insults at him," at Jesus, "he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." And because Jesus was raised from the dead, now two promises exist. If we face injustice today, one, we can take heart because God sees it. Maybe the truth will never come out. Maybe the people that wrong you will never be held accountable. But the Bible assures us that God is the one who judges justly. We don't have to fight for our own vindication because we've been set right by God, and God will take care of things in his time. And if you feel accused by your own sinfulness, here's the best news. We have an advocate. Maybe the loudest accusations against us in our life aren't from other people, but actually it's your own self against yourself. You look at your life, your failures, your struggles, your sin, and you wonder, how could God love me? Here's the amazing news. Jesus stands before the Father as our advocate, not because we're innocent, but because he loves us, and he was willing to take our guilt. He was willing to put it all on him. That's the hope that we have when we're accused. That's the hope we have when we wrestle with our own sinfulness, is that God advocates for us. He fights for us. And he did for us what we could never do for ourselves.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.